Jake Martinez pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship. His breath made fog on the glass as he stared at the massive station floating in space. Kepler Station looked like a giant wheel, with spokes reaching out from the center. Lights blinked along its surface like tiny stars. "First time on a deep space station?" asked the pilot, a woman with short gray hair. "Yes," Jake said. His hands were sweaty. He had been dreaming of this moment for years, but now he felt scared and excited at the same time. The transport ship docked with a soft bump. Jake grabbed his 2 bags and followed the other passengers through the airlock. The station's gravity felt normal under his feet. The air smelled clean but different somehow. A tall woman in a blue uniform waited for him. "Jake Martinez?" she asked. "That's me. I'm Captain Lisa Wong, station commander. Welcome to Kepler Station." She shook his hand firmly. "Ready to see your new home." They walked through long hallways with curved walls. Jake saw humans talking with beings he had only seen in pictures before. A tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms waved at Captain Wong. 2 shorter beings with rocky skin like mountains walked past carrying strange tools. "How many different species work here?" Jake asked. 12, Captain Wong said, "including humans. We all work together on research projects. Your job is to help with the fusion drive systems." They stopped at a large window that looked out into space. Jake could see ships coming and going from the station. Some looked like human ships, but others had strange shapes he had never seen before. "The fusion drives power everything here," Captain Wong explained. "Without them, we can't run the labs, the life support, or the communication systems. Your work is very important." Jake nodded. He had studied fusion drives for years, but working on them in deep space would be different from working on Earth. They continued walking. Jake noticed that some areas of the station were warmer or colder than others. The lighting changed, too. Some hallways had bright white lights, while others had soft blue or green lights. "Different species need different environments," Captain Wong said when she saw him looking around. "We try to keep everyone comfortable." They reached a section, with signs in several languages Jake did not recognize. The air here felt warmer and smelled like flowers. Jake heard soft sounds that might have been music or conversation. "This is the Catherian section," Captain Wong said. "You'll be working closely with one of them. Her name is Zara Velthari. She's a xenobiologist, but she also knows a lot about fusion technology." "What are Catherians like?" Jake asked. Captain Wong smiled. "You'll see. They're very intelligent and professional. Just remember to be respectful. Every species has its own customs." They walked through a door into a large workshop. Jake saw fusion drive components spread across several tables. The equipment looked more advanced than anything he had seen on Earth. A figure bent over one of the tables, working with tools that glowed with soft light. "Zara!" Captain Wong called. The figure straightened and turned around. Jake's breath caught. She looked almost human, but not quite. Her hair was golden and seemed to move on its own. Her ears came to points at the top. Her eyes were large and bright gold, like coins in sunlight. Her face was beautiful, but different in ways Jake could not explain. She was taller than Jake by a few inches. Her hands had 5 fingers like a human, but they were longer and more graceful. She wore a dark blue uniform that fit her perfectly. Most interesting of all, Jake could hear a soft rumbling sound coming from her chest. It was quiet but steady, like a cat purring. "Captain Wong," Zara said. Her voice was smooth and had an accent Jake had never heard before. "Is this the new engineer?" "Yes. Jake Martinez. Meet Zara Velthari." Zara stepped closer and looked at Jake carefully. Her golden eyes seemed to see everything about him. Jake felt nervous under her gaze, but also curious. She was the most unusual person he had ever met. "Hello?" Jake said. He held out his hand. Zara looked at his hand for a moment, then reached out and shook it. Her hand was warm and soft. "Welcome to Kepler Station, Jake Martinez. I hope you are ready to work hard." "I am," Jake said. "I've studied fusion drives for years, but I've never seen equipment like this. This is Catherian technology combined with human engineering," Zara explained. She walked back to the table and picked up a small device that looked like a crystal. "We have learned that our species work well together on technical problems." Jake followed her to the table. "The fusion, Drive components were beautiful. They had smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow from within. Some parts looked grown rather than built. "How do they work?" Jake asked. Zara's purring sound got a little louder. "I will teach you. But first you must understand that this technology is alive in some ways. Cytherian biotechnology grows and adapts. Your human engineering makes it stable and reliable." Jake reached out to touch one of the components. It felt warm and seemed to pulse gently under his fingers. "Amazing," he said. "Yes," Zara agreed. "We will do good work together, I think." Captain Wong watched them for a moment. "I'll leave you two to get acquainted. Jake, your quarters are in Section C. Zara will show you around when you're ready." After the captain left, Jake and Zara worked together for the rest of the day. Jake learned that Cytherians were very focused workers. When Zara concentrated on a problem, her purring became more noticeable. She moved with grace and precision, never wasting motion. Jake tried to be professional, but he found himself watching Zara work. She was clearly very intelligent. She explained complex concepts in simple terms and never made him feel stupid for asking questions. As the day ended, Jake realized he was looking forward to working with Zara. She was different from anyone he had ever met, but that made her interesting rather than frightening. He had no idea that his innocent observation about her purring would soon change both their lives forever. 3 weeks had passed since Jake started working on Kepler Station. He was getting used to the strange rhythms of life in space. The artificial day and night cycles helped, but he still sometimes forgot which direction was up. Working with Zara had become the best part of his day. She was patient when he made mistakes and quick to share her knowledge. Jake learned that Cytherians thought differently about problems. Where humans might force a solution, Cytherians found ways to work with natural processes. Jake also learned to read Zara's moods through small signs. When she was happy with their progress, her golden eyes seemed brighter. When she was frustrated, her ears would twitch slightly. And always, there was the soft purring sound when she concentrated. "The humans have a saying," Zara said one morning as they worked on a new drive component. "You cannot make an omelet without breaking eggs." Jake laughed. "That's right. Where did you learn that?" "I study human culture," Zara said. "Your species is very interesting. You solve problems by breaking them apart and rebuilding them. Cytherians prefer to guide problems towards solutions. They were working on a fusion chamber that kept losing power. The human-built components worked perfectly, but they could not connect properly with the Cytherian biotechnology. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong," Jake said. He picked up the bio component, which felt warm and alive in his hands. "What if we don't force the connection? What if we let the biotech adapt to our systems?" Zara's ears perked up with interest. "That could work, but it will take patience. Biotech needs time to learn." They spent the morning setting up a gentle connection between the two systems. Instead of forcing compatibility, they created an environment where the biotech could slowly adjust to the human technology. Jake watched as tiny tendrils grew from the bio component toward the human-built fusion chamber. It was like watching a plant reach toward sunlight. "It's working," Zara said softly. Her purring became more noticeable as she monitored the connection. Hours passed. Other workers came and went, but Jake and Zara stayed focused on their project. The biotech continued its slow adaptation, guided by Zara's careful adjustments. By evening, most of the lab was empty. Jake and Zara worked under the soft lights, their heads bent close together over the fusion chamber. The connection was almost complete. "Power levels are rising," Jake reported, watching his instruments. "Bio-integration at 70%, Zara said. Her purring was steady and strong now, a sound of deep concentration and satisfaction. Jake found the sound comforting. After weeks of working together, Zara's purring had become as familiar as the hum of the station's engines. It meant everything was going well. The fusion chamber suddenly came to life with a gentle glow. Perfect energy readings appeared on both their screens. "We did it!" Jake said, grinning widely. Zara's purring grew louder, almost like a cat that had caught a mouse. Her golden eyes sparkled with pride and joy. Jake was tired, but happy. 3 weeks of careful work had paid off. Without thinking, he turned to Zara and said, "I didn't know you purr when you're happy. It's actually pretty cute." The effect was immediate and shocking. Zara's purring stopped completely, as if someone had thrown a switch. Her golden eyes locked onto Jake's with an intensity that made his breath catch. She went very still, like a statue. The few other Catherians still in the lab turned to stare. Their conversations stopped. The sudden silence was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Zara continued to stare at him with those bright golden eyes. Jake felt like she was looking right through him, seeing things he didn't even know about himself. Her expression was unreadable, but something important had just happened. He could feel it in the air. "Zara?" Jake said quietly. "Are you okay?" She blinked once, very slowly. When she spoke, her voice was different. Softer, but also more serious. "Jake Martinez," she said, using his full name for the first time in weeks. "Do you understand what you just said?" I said your purring was cute," Jake said, confusion growing. "Did I say something wrong?" The other Catherians were still watching. One of them, an older male with silver markings on his fur, approached slowly. "Zara Velthari," he said in a formal tone. "Is this human speaking with knowledge of our customs?" Zara never took her eyes off Jake. "No, Elder Keth. He speaks without knowledge." Jake looked back and forth between them. "What's going on?" "What did I do?" Zara finally looked away from him, breaking the intense eye contact. "You have spoken words that have meaning in my culture, words that cannot be taken back." She stood up quickly and began gathering her tools. Her movements were sharp and precise, very different from her usual graceful flow. "Zara, please," Jake said, standing as well. "Just tell me what I did wrong. I can apologize." "There is nothing to apologize for," she said, still not looking at him. "But there are consequences. I must speak with my people." She finished packing her tools and headed toward the door. Just before she left, she turned back to Jake one more time. Her golden eyes met his again, and for a moment, Jake saw something that might have been fear or excitement, or both. "Report to Dr. Alan Brooks in the morning," she said. "He will explain what happens next." Then she was gone, leaving Jake alone with the Elder Keth and two other Catherians. Elder Keth approached Jake with the expression that might have been amusement. "Young human," he said, "you have just done something very interesting." "What did I do?" Jake asked desperately. "You have commented favorably on Zara Velthari's contentment sounds," Elder Keth said. "In our culture, this is how courtship begins." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Courtship? But I was just being friendly." "Perhaps," Elder Keth said, "but Zara has accepted your words as genuine. By looking into your eyes as she did, she has agreed to consider your suit." "My suit? I don't understand any of this." Elder Keth placed a gentle hand on Jake's shoulder. "Do not worry, young human. Dr. Brooks will explain everything. But know this. You have been placed on Zara Velthari's nesting roster." "What does that mean?" Elder Keth's expression definitely looked like amusement now. "It means, Jake Martinez, that you are now officially considered a potential mate by one of our most respected young females." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. 3 weeks ago, he had been a simple engineer from Earth, excited about his first deep space assignment. Now, apparently, he was involved in an alien courtship ritual he didn't understand. He looked at the fusion chamber they had just completed together. Its gentle glow seemed to mock him. If only human relationships could be engineered as easily as fusion drives. Jake had a feeling his life was about to become much more complicated. Jake did not sleep well that night. He kept thinking about Zara's golden eyes and the way she had stared at him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face and heard Elder Keth's words about nesting rosters and potential mates. Dr. Alan Brooks was a thin man with gray hair and kind eyes. His office was filled with books and pictures of various alien species. When Jake arrived the next morning, Dr. Brooks already had a large cup of coffee waiting. "Sit down, Jake," Dr. Brooks said. "I heard about what happened last night." "Dr. Brooks, I need to understand what I did," Jake said, taking the coffee gratefully. "Elder Keth said something about a nesting roster, but I don't know what that means." Dr. Brooks leaned back in his chair. "The Catherians are a complex species, Jake. They've been traveling among the stars for thousands of years, but they keep Their mating customs very private. We humans have been working with them for only 50 years, and we still don't understand everything. But what is a nesting roster? From what we know, it's a list of potential mates that a Catherian female considers suitable, Dr. Brooks explained. When a male shows interest in a specific way and the female accepts that interest, he gets added to her roster. Jake felt his stomach twist. But I wasn't showing romantic interest. I just said her purring was cute. That's the problem with cross-cultural communication, Dr. Brooks said sadly. What seems innocent to us can have deep meaning to them. Commenting on a Catherian's contentment sounds is apparently how their males express interest in mating. So what happens now? Can I just explain it was a mistake? Dr. Brooks shook his head. That's where it gets complicated. Once you're on the roster, backing out is considered a serious insult. It could damage relations between our species. Jake put his head in his hands. This is a disaster. Maybe not, Dr. Brooks said thoughtfully. No human has ever been placed on a Catherian nesting roster before. This could be an incredible opportunity for cultural exchange. But what if I don't want to be on her roster? Then you need to think carefully about your choice, Dr. Brooks said, because refusing could hurt Zara personally and damage human-Catherian relations on this station. Jake left Dr. Brooks' office feeling more confused than ever. He walked through the station's corridors, noticing things he had missed before. Human crew members nodded and smiled at him as usual, but the Catherians he passed gave him looks that seemed more interested than before. He found Captain Wong in the main command center, studying reports on a large screen. "Captain," Jake said, "I need to talk to you about what happened with Zara." Captain Wong turned around. "I heard. Quite a situation you've gotten yourself into. Can't you just order me to refuse the roster? Make it an official human decision, instead of a personal insult?" Captain Wong considered this. "I could try, but it might not work. The Catherians take their customs very seriously. They might see any official interference as an even bigger insult." Jake noticed other crew members watching their conversation with interest. Word was spreading quickly through the station. "Have you seen Zara today?" Jake asked. "She's in the Catherian Cultural Center," Captain Wong said, meeting with their elders about the situation. "Jake, I need you to understand something. Whatever you decide, it will affect more than just you and Zara." That afternoon, Jake decided to learn more about Catherian culture. He went to the station's library and pulled up every file about their species. Most of the information was basic: their homeworld, their technology, their role in the galactic community. But there was very little about their personal lives. He did find one interesting detail. Catherians mated for life, and their courtship process could last for months. During that time, potential mates had to prove their worth through various tests and challenges. Jake was reading about Catherian family structures when someone sat down across from him. He looked up to see a young Catherian female with dark fur and green eyes. "You are Jake Martinez," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. And you are?" "I am Mira Sektai. I work in the biology labs with Zara Velthari." She studied Jake carefully. "I have come to speak with you about the situation." "Please," Jake said, closing the computer files. "I need all the help I can get." Mira's ears twitched, which Jake had learned was a sign of amusement among Catherians. "You truly did not know what your words meant?" "I had no idea. I was just being friendly." "This makes the situation more interesting," Mira said. "Usually males who join a nesting roster have studied our customs for months. They know what they are getting into." "What should I do?" Mira was quiet for a long moment. "What do you think of Zara Velthari?" Jake considered the question carefully. "She's brilliant. She's patient with me when I don't understand something. She works harder than anyone I know. And she's—" He paused, realizing what he was about to say. "She is what?" "She's beautiful," Jake admitted. "But that doesn't mean I'm ready to be on her nesting roster." Mira's ears twitched again. "Beauty is not the most important quality for a life mate, but it does not hurt. Tell me, Jake Martinez, when you work with Zara, how do you feel?" Jake thought about the past 3 weeks. "Happy," he said finally. "We work well together. We understand each other even though we're from different species. And when she purrs while working?" Jake felt his face grow warm. "I like the sound. It means she's content and focused. It makes me feel peaceful. Mira nodded as if this confirmed something. You may not have known our customs, but your feelings are genuine. But I don't know anything about Cytherian courtship. That can be learned, Mira said. The question is whether you want to learn. That evening, Jake walked to the Cytherian section of the station. He had been there many times for work, but tonight it felt different. The warm air and flower scents seemed more noticeable. The soft lighting made everything look mysterious. He found Zara in a small garden area where Cytherians grew plants from their home world. She was sitting on a bench, looking out through a window at the stars. She didn't turn when he approached, but her ears moved slightly, showing she knew he was there. Zara, Jake said quietly, can we talk? She turned to look at him. Her golden eyes were calm but watchful. Have you spoken with Dr. Brooks? Yes. And with Mira Sektai, and Captain Wong. Jake sat down on the bench, leaving space between them. I understand what happened now. And what is your decision? Jake looked out at the stars for a moment. I want to apologize for speaking without knowledge, but I don't want to apologize for the feelings behind my words. Zara's ears perked up. With interest. I meant it when I said your purring was cute, Jake continued. I like working with you. I like the way you think. I like the way you make me feel when we solve problems together. These are not reasons to join a nesting roster, Zara said, but her voice was softer than it had been. No, Jake agreed. But maybe there are reasons to try. I don't know anything about Cytherian courtship, but I'm willing to learn, if you're willing to teach me. Zara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, the courtship process is not easy. There will be challenges. Other males on my roster will not welcome human competition. There are others? 3, Zara said. All of them have been preparing for months. They know our customs, our traditions, our expectations. Jake felt a stab of something that might have been jealousy. Then I'll have to learn faster. For the first time since the incident in the lab, Zara smiled. It was a small smile, but it made her golden eyes sparkle. Very well, Jake Martinez, she said. I will teach you our ways, but understand this. If you begin this path, you must see it through to the end. There is no backing out once the formal courtship begins. Jake held out his hand, the same way he had on his first day. I understand. Zara looked at his hand, then reached out and took it. Her warm fingers wrapped around his, and Jake heard a soft purring sound start up again. Then let us begin, she said. The formal courtship began 3 days later in the Cytherian Cultural Center. Jake had spent those days learning basic Cytherian customs from Zara and Mira. He discovered that Cytherians valued 3 things above all others: intelligence, practical skills, and emotional understanding. The courtship has 4 stages, Zara explained as they walked toward the ceremonial hall. First, you must prove you can provide for a family by building a habitat module. Second, you compete in problem-solving challenges. Third, you demonstrate emotional compatibility. Finally, if you make it that far, you face the other males in direct competition. Jake's stomach was tight with nerves. What happens if I fail? Then you are removed from the roster with honor, Zara said. But failure would also mean our working relationship might become awkward. They entered a large room where about 30 Cytherians had gathered. Jake saw Elder Keth, Mira, and several other Cytherians he knew from work. At the far end of the room stood 3 males, all taller and more muscular than Jake. Their golden eyes watched him with expressions that ranged from curiosity to hostility. Those are your competitors, Zara said quietly. Tarek Mordain is the large one with the dark stripes. He is a military officer. Jorik Felthan is the one with the silver markings. He is an engineer like you. Voss Kelmar is the youngest. But he comes from a very important family. Elder Keth stepped forward and began speaking in the Cytherian language. His words had a formal ceremonial tone. Other Cytherians responded with what sounded like ritual phrases. He is explaining the rules, Zara whispered. Each male will have 1 week to complete the first challenge. You will build a habitat module suitable for a family of 4. You may use any materials available on the station, but you must work alone. Jake nodded. He had studied the specifications for Cytherian habitat modules. They were more than just buildings. They were living spaces that adapted to their occupants' needs. The ceremony continued for another hour. Jake understood very little of the Cytherian language, but he could tell from the tone and the reactions of the audience that this was a serious and important event. Finally, Elder Keth switched to standard galactic language. "Jake Martinez of Earth," he said formally, "do you accept the challenge of proving your worth to join the nesting roster of Zara Velthari?" "I do," Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Then let the courtship begin." The next week was the hardest of Jake's life. He worked 18 hours a day in a workshop provided by the station. His habitat module had to be functional, beautiful, and suited to Cytherian needs. Jake started with human engineering principles, but tried to incorporate Cytherian biotechnology. He designed walls that could change color and temperature based on the occupants' moods. The floors were grown rather than built, using biotech that would be soft and warm under bare feet. The hardest part was the emotional adaptation system. Cytherians were empathic to some degree, and their homes needed to respond to their feelings. Jake had to learn how Cytherian biotech could sense and react to emotional states. Zara was not allowed to help directly, but she checked on his progress each day. She never commented on his work, but Jake learned to read her expressions. When her ears perked up with interest, he knew he was on the right track. On the fourth day, Jake ran into problems with the environmental controls. The biotech components weren't responding to his programming. "They don't trust you yet," said a voice behind him. Jake turned to see Jorik Felthan, one of his competitors. "What do you mean?" "Cytherian biotech is alive," Jorik explained. "It has to accept you before it will work properly. You're trying to force it to obey like human technology." Jake stared at his competitor. "Why are you helping me?" Jorik smiled, showing sharp canine teeth. "Because fair competition makes everyone stronger. If you succeed through genuine skill, then whoever wins will truly deserve Zara Velthari." That evening, Jake changed his approach. Instead of programming the biotech, he began talking to it. He explained what he was trying to build and why. He told it about his feelings for Zara and his desire to create a home worthy of her. It felt foolish at first, but gradually the biotech began responding. The walls started changing color properly. The environmental controls began working. By the end of the week, Jake had created a habitat module that was beautiful, functional, and alive. The judging took place in front of all the Cytherians. Each male presented his habitat module to a panel of elders. Tarek had built something that looked like a fortress, strong and protective but cold. Voss had created a work of art that was beautiful but not very practical. Jorik's module was perfectly engineered but lacked personality. Jake's module was different. When the judges entered, the walls warmed to welcome them. The lighting adjusted to their preferences. The air filled with the scent of flowers from the Cytherian homeworld. "Impressive," Elder Keth said. "This human has learned to work with our biotechnology, not against it." All 4 males passed the first challenge, but Jake could see that his module had surprised the judges. The second challenge was intellectual. The 4 competitors were given a complex problem involving stellar navigation, resource management, and diplomatic relations. They had to work together to solve it, but each would be judged on his individual contributions. Jake discovered that his human perspective was actually an advantage. Where the Cytherian males approached problems in traditional ways, Jake thought outside their cultural patterns. He suggested solutions that none of them had considered. "Humans see problems differently," Zara told him after the challenge. "This is why our species work well together." The third challenge was the most difficult for Jake. He had to demonstrate emotional compatibility by participating in a Cytherian ritual called heart sharing. Each male would spend an entire day with Zara, sharing memories, fears, and dreams. Jake was nervous about this challenge. He barely knew Zara outside of work, and he was competing against males who had known her for years. When his turn came, Zara led him to a quiet garden area. They sat together on soft cushions while she prepared tea with herbs from her homeworld. "Tell me about your childhood," she said. Jake found himself talking about growing up on Earth, about his fascination with the stars, about the loneliness of being one of the few humans interested in alien cultures. Zara listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions that showed she understood more than he expected. "Now you must listen to me," she said when he finished. Zara told him about her life on the Catherian homeworld, about the pressure to find a suitable mate, about her desire to explore the galaxy and learn about other species. She talked about the loneliness of being different from her peers. "I have always been more interested in science than in traditional female roles," she said. "Many Catherian males find this challenging. I find it attractive," Jake said honestly. "Your intelligence is one of the things I admire most about you." Zara's purring started up softly. "This is why you were able to work with our biotechnology. You accept things as they are instead of trying to force them to be what you expect." The day continued. Jake realized he was falling in love with Zara. Not just attracted to her beauty or impressed by her intelligence, but genuinely caring about her happiness and well-being. The final challenge was direct competition between the 4 males. They would face tests of strength, speed, intelligence, and courage. It was the most traditional part of the courtship, and Jake was at a severe disadvantage. Catherian males were naturally stronger and faster than humans. They had better reflexes and superior endurance. In a fair fight, Jake would lose every competition. But Elder Keth had designed the challenges to test more than physical ability. The strength test required moving heavy equipment, but creativity and engineering skill could overcome raw muscle power. The speed test was actually a puzzle that required quick thinking more than fast movement. Jake used every advantage his human training had given him. He built machines to help with the strength test. He found shortcuts in the speed challenge that the Catherian males missed. He solved problems in ways that surprised everyone, including himself. The final competition was one-on-one combat simulation. Jake would face each of the other males in turn using training weapons. This was where his human disadvantages would be most obvious. Tarek defeated Jake easily in their match, but Jake managed to score several hits through clever tactics. Voss was faster, but Jake's unpredictable fighting style confused him. The match ended in a draw. The fight with Jorik was the most important. Jorik had been Jake's strongest competitor throughout the challenges. He was skilled, intelligent, and well-respected by the Catherian community. But Jake had one advantage that none of the Catherian males possessed. He had learned to work with Zara every day for weeks. He understood how she thought, how she approached problems, how she responded to different situations. During their combat simulation, Jake found himself fighting not just with his own skills, but with techniques he had learned from watching Zara work. He moved with the patience she showed when dealing with biotechnology. He adapted to Jorik's attacks the way she adapted to engineering problems. The match ended with both males on the ground, neither able to continue. Another draw, but Jake had proven he could hold his own against superior opponents. When all the challenges were complete, Elder Keth called the 4 males before the assembled community. "All 4 have shown worthy qualities," he announced, "but the final choice belongs to Zara Velthari." Zara stepped forward. She looked at each male in turn, her golden eyes thoughtful and serious. "Tarek Mordain," she said, "you are strong and brave, but you see me as someone to be protected rather than partnered with." Tarek nodded and stepped back with dignity. "Voss Kelmar, you are intelligent and come from a good family, but you are interested in my status more than in me as an individual." Voss also stepped back, though he looked disappointed. "Jorik Felton, you are skilled and kind, and you would make an excellent mate for the right female. But we are too similar. We would make good friends, but not good partners." Jorik smiled and bowed formally to Zara before stepping back. Finally, Zara turned to Jake. Her golden eyes met his, and he saw warmth and affection. "There, Jake Martinez," she said. "You are not the strongest or the fastest or the most traditional choice, but you see me as I am and accept me as I am. You bring out the best in me and challenge me to grow. You are my choice, the Catherian community." Erupted in approval. Jake felt dizzy with relief and joy. He had won Zara's heart, but more importantly, he had proven that love could cross the boundaries between species. As the celebration continued around them, Zara took Jake's hand. Her purring was loud and happy. "So what happens now?" Jake asked. "Now," Zara said with a smile, "we plan our life together." The life bond ceremony was held 2 months later in the main observation deck of Kepler Station. Jake had never seen anything so beautiful. The huge windows showed the swirling colors of a nearby nebula, while inside the deck, humans and Cytherians worked together to create something that honored both cultures. Jake wore a formal human suit, but Zara had added Cytherian decorations to it, small crystals that caught the light and seemed to glow from within. Zara wore traditional Cytherian ceremonial robes that flowed like water and changed color with her emotions. Right now, they were a warm golden color that matched her eyes. Captain Wong stood at the front of the gathering, next to Elder Keth. She had spent weeks learning the proper Cytherian ceremonies so she could help officiate the bonding. "This is the first union between our species," Captain Wong said to the assembled crowd. "Today, we are not just witnessing a wedding. We are seeing the future of cooperation between humans and Cytherians." Jake looked out at the crowd. His parents had traveled from Earth to be here, along with his sister and 2 brothers. They looked a little overwhelmed by all the alien customs, but they were smiling. Dr. Brooks was there, beaming with pride at this moment of cultural exchange. Mira Sektai sat in the front row, her green eyes bright with happiness. Even Jorik, Tarek, and Voss were there, having become Jake's friends during the months of preparation. The courtship competition had created bonds of respect between all of them. "Jake Martinez," Elder Keth said in his formal voice. "Do you promise to protect and cherish Zara Velthari? Will you learn her customs and honor her people? Will you build a life with her that bridges the space between your worlds?" "I do," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the deck. "Zara Velthari," Captain Wong said, "do you promise to love and support Jake Martinez? Will you teach him your ways and learn his? Will you create a future together that shows what is possible when different species choose to unite instead of remaining apart?" "I do," Zara said. Her purring was so loud that everyone in the room could hear it. Elder Keth began singing in the ancient Cytherian language. His voice was deep and rich, and soon other Cytherians joined in. The song filled the observation deck, with harmonious sounds that seemed to make the very walls of the station vibrate in response. Jake felt the vibrations in his chest, and suddenly he understood why Cytherians purr. It wasn't just a sound. It was a way of connecting with the world around them, of sharing their emotions with others. As the song continued, Jake began to feel something he had never experienced before. The boundaries between himself and everyone else seemed to blur. He could sense the happiness of the humans in the crowd, the warm approval of the Cytherians, the deep joy radiating from Zara beside him. "What's happening?" he whispered to Zara. "The life bond," she whispered back. "Our minds are connecting. This is why Cytherians mate for life. Once bonded, we can always sense each other's emotions." Jake felt a moment of panic. Would he lose his individuality? Would he stop being human? Zara's warm hand found his, and her purring grew softer. Through their growing connection, he felt her sending him reassurance and love. He was still himself, just himself, plus something wonderful and new. The ceremony continued with exchanges of vows and gifts from both cultures. Jake gave Zara a ring made from metal taken from his first fusion drive project, a symbol of their professional partnership that had grown into love. Zara gave Jake a living crystal that would grow and change throughout their lives together, adapting to their shared experiences. "By the authority of Kepler Station and the Galactic Alliance," Captain Wong said, "I now pronounce you life-bonded partners. Jake, you may kiss your mate." Jake leaned in to kiss Zara, and the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Humans clapped and shouted congratulations, while Cytherians sang and purred their approval. As they kissed, Jake felt their mental connection settle into place. It was like gaining a new sense. He could feel Zara's happiness, her love, her excitement about their future together. And through their bond, she could feel his emotions too. The celebration afterward lasted for hours. Jake found himself talking with Cytherians he had never met before, all eager to welcome him into their community, his human friends and family. mixed with Zara's people, creating conversations and friendships that would have been impossible before. Dr. Brooks pulled Jake aside during the party. "You've done something remarkable here," he said. "This bonding isn't just personal, it's diplomatic. You've opened doors between our species that have been closed for 50 years. "I just fell in love," Jake said. "I didn't plan any of this." "The best changes often happen by accident," Dr. Brooks said with a smile. Later that evening, Jake and Zara stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The nebula had shifted colors, now showing deep blues and purples against the black of space. "Do you regret anything?" Zara asked, her hand warm in his. Jake considered the question. 6 months ago, he had been a simple engineer looking forward to his first deep space assignment. Now he was bonded for life to an alien, female, connected to her thoughts and emotions in ways he was still learning to understand. "No," he said honestly, "this is better than anything I could have planned." "Even though your life will never be simple again?" Zara asked with amusement. "Even though our children will be the first human Cytherian hybrids? Even though you'll spend the rest of your life learning customs you never knew existed?" "Especially because of all that," Jake said. "I love you, Zara. Not just the you I fell in love with, but the you I'm still discovering. The you I'll keep discovering for the rest of our lives." Zara's purring started up again, soft and content. Through their bond, Jake felt how much his words meant to her. "I have news," she said. "While you were talking with Dr. Brooks, I received a message from the Galactic Council. They want us to head a new project." "What kind of project?" "A joint research colony," Zara explained. "Humans and Cytherians working together to explore a newly discovered world. They want us to lead the team because we've proven that our species can not only work together, but actually bond together." Jake felt excitement building inside him, and through their connection, he realized the excitement was coming from both of them. "A whole new world to explore," he said, "with the best partner I could ask for." "Are you interested?" Zara asked. Jake pulled her closer and kissed her forehead just below her pointed ears. "I'm very interested. When do we leave?" "In 6 months. That will give us time to recruit the team and plan the mission." Zara's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Jake, we're going to build something completely new. A colony where humans and Cytherians live and work together as equals. And raise our children there," Jake added. "And raise our children there." Zara agreed, her purring growing louder. They stood together on the observation deck, watching the stars and planning their future. Around them, the celebration continued, but they were lost in their own world of possibilities. 6 months later, Jake and Zara stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Harmony, watching as their new home came into view. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in complex patterns. "Kepler 4042c, Zara said, reading from her instruments. "Atmosphere suitable for both humans and Cytherians. Gravity 95% of Earth normal. No signs of intelligent life, but plenty of interesting plants and animals to study." "Perfect," Jake said. "Ready to make history?" Behind them, the ship was full of volunteers from both species. Scientists, engineers, artists, teachers, farmers. Everyone needed to build a new kind of society. Jake's parents had volunteered to come, eager to help raise the grandchildren they hoped would arrive soon. Mira was there too, along with Jorik, and several other friends from Kepler Station. As the ship entered orbit around their new world, Jake felt the excitement of everyone aboard through the emotional connections that Cytherians shared with their bonded partners. It was like being part of a vast, joyful family. "Landing site selected," announced the ship's captain. "Prepare for descent." Jake took Zara's hand as they felt the ship begin to descend through the atmosphere. Through the viewports, they could see forests and rivers, mountains and plains. Somewhere down there, they would build the first true human Cytherian city. "No regrets?" Zara asked, echoing her question from their bonding ceremony. Jake squeezed her hand and listened to her gentle purring. Through their bond, he could feel her love, her excitement, her absolute confidence in their future, together. "No regrets," he said. "Just possibilities." The ship touched down on a grassy plain next to a clear blue river. In the distance, purple mountains rose into a golden sky. It was the most beautiful place Jake had ever seen. As the colonists began unloading equipment and setting up their first temporary shelters, Jake and Zara walked to the top of a small hill overlooking the landing site. They could see humans and Catherians working together, their two species united in the common goal of building something new and wonderful. "What should we call the city?" Zara asked. Jake thought for a moment, watching as children from both species ran around the landing site, playing together, as if species differences didn't matter at all. "Harmony," he said. "New Harmony." "Perfect," Zara said, her purring loud and content. They stood together on the hill, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors neither Earth nor the Catherian homeworld had ever shown them. Tomorrow would bring challenges and hard work, but tonight was for dreams and possibilities. Jake had learned something important during his journey from simple engineer to life-bonded partner to colony founder. Love didn't recognize the boundaries between species, between worlds, between what was and what could be. And sometimes, the most important discoveries were the ones you never planned to make. Zara's purring grew softer as the first stars began to appear in the alien sky. Through their bond, Jake felt her contentment and love, and he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. After all, they had already proven that anything was possible when two people, no matter how different, chose to build a future together.